I am filled with emotion because, like I think many people here, you've had more impact on my life than anyone I can think of, and you've saved it. And I want to thank you so much.
We shined a light in the direction of your path of least resistance, but you're the one who found it. In other words, we're not brushing off the compliment at all, and we are certainly receiving the appreciation, but there are vibrational matches all over the place here that we don't want you to miss. Yes.
And I think that's important, and that's one of the things I felt when there were days where the only thing I could do to get out of bed was to listen to your voice. And things are always working out for me became a mantra of mine, and I recognized...
Not just a mantra, a knowing.
Yes.
Mantra, words, lip service, knowing something else.
Yes. And being here and seeing and being in this community that has built around this vibration is an island, using a reference to an answer you gave earlier, that I feel like I belong in more than I ever have in my life.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you, and I wanted to...
Matching feels good.
Yeah.
It's also always the quest, and it's also always available. In other words, there's never a lack of matching that's serious.
Yeah.
Even in a moment when it doesn't feel like you're matching up, there's still nothing serious going on because you can match up. We're expressing our unconditional
presence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unconditional presence.
Right.
Yeah. And so the question that I have, sometimes spirituality in my past sometimes has been connected to a degree of superstition. And I think that's, a negative thing that I'm vibrating above at this stage. But something that you've said before has stuck with me, which is the idea when you talk about momentum, when you're really in momentum, and you use the analogy, which is interesting because we were in San Francisco, and you use the analogy of the car at the top of the hill, and how if it's the very top, you can stop it, but if it's all the way, if it's got
once
momentum,
it gets going, you're not going to stop it with your body.
What I'd love to hear some affirmation of is that it is, no matter where the car is on the hill, there still is something to be done, unless you feel like there really isn't.
There's never a time, no matter what the momentum is, that you can't do something about it. It's just ever so much more prudent and manageable and understandable to get out ahead of it. In other words, the reason that we don't talk about ways to stop fast-moving negative momentum is because it defies the laws of the universe. In other words, in the analogy that we offer, you may be aware of it, we've been offering it since Esther stood at the top of one of those San Francisco streets. And we said, imagine that your car is stopped there, you get out of your car, you take it out of gear, you release the brake, and just for fun, you decide you're just going to nudge your car just a little bit to see what happens. And as you nudge it, you realize as you look down, down, down to the bay, that once that car gets going, it's going to go. In other words, before it begins with much momentum, you could step out in front of it and stop it. But if it gets underway, you're not going to stop it. It's going to mow you down. And so we cannot say to you that from your physical framework of what you desire, as you live in this physical world, that you could defy those laws of physics. You could not. If your car is rolling at 50 miles an hour down Lombard Street, you're not going to stand in front of it and stop it. It's going to knock you down. Those are laws of physics, because the momentum was such. Well, there are vibrational laws of physics, and they are not different in the non-physical world than they are in the physical world. The difference is that you are eternal, that you never get it done. Where in your physical format, the question that you're usually asking has to do with this time, this moment, am I going to get knocked over? Or could I really stand against that car? What you've noticed as you've listened to us in the absence of inconsistencies is that we are never inconsistent with the laws of the universe, even the physical laws of the universe. We're not asking you to defy gravity. We don't tell you jump off a building, get your faith all shored up. We don't tell you when you find that car off at the side of the road that's on fire to stop and meditate with them. We encourage you to get the fire extinguisher out. In other words, and so what exactly is it that you're asking of us?
What I'm asking is, I feel as though I have some momentum of when I first started my career as a writer, I believed I could do anything, and I did.
They can't hear you.
When I first began my career as a writer, I believed I could do anything, and I did. And I set records in Hollywood, and I had anything I wanted to do happened. And then as my career has advanced and I've come closer to...
Before you go further, we want to clarify something.
Yes.
Your desires and expectations lined up.
Right. My desires, and I think that reality or the what is infected my process, or I allowed it to infect my process to the point where I have 11 times come within a hair's breadth of having a series ordered and, $100 million budgets aligned, and everything was lined up, and it hasn't happened. And I've started to believe that that's my story now, or that the what is has...
But let's, rather than talk about the details of your experience, which has a certain trending to it that isn't serving you.
Right.
Instead, let's talk about the laws of the universe and the elements of those laws of the universe. And let's just acknowledge together, we just did, but let's go back and start there again, that in those early days, your desires and expectations were not far apart. In fact, you were able to mesh them together, and that's why you felt invincible and for a period of time were. Because there was no separation between your desire and your expectation, or your desire and your beliefs. You were trending in the direction of your desire, or better said, more accurately said, the trending of your desire was so dominant, nothing else played a factor in the process.
Exactly.
All right, so now you watch what you want to call the real world, and you learn how the sausage is made. And you get too smart for your own good, and you practice and adopt limitations that aren't your own. They're limitations that others have experienced, that others are regurgitating, and so you began believing that in a stronger way. So those beliefs got disproportionately stronger, while your desire got disproportionately weaker. Right.
And that's the momentum that I'm concerned about, and that's the momentum I want to be able to stand.
But understanding the laws of the universe, and keeping yourself, just for sake of this conversation, separate from the reality of what happened or what is happening, and just focusing upon the laws, could you not say, at one time I wanted and I believed the same, and then I wanted and believed in opposition, but I could easily go back to wanting and believing the same, because it's just a choice. It's not like there is a reality that compels you to think that way. All there was a loud boom that caused you to focus over there, but you didn't need to. You have the discipline to stay focused in the direction of your desire.
I do, and I believe that. I feel as though I feel there's some conflict, though, with that metaphor because I feel like I'm halfway down the hill and the car's coming down, and so for me to turn it around...
Just get out of the car.
Just get out of the car?
Just get out of the car and get on a different hill. And get on a hill that's not that's not, don't put yourself in a precarious position to begin with.
I see. So what's happening is I'm picking the belief that is not serving me.
And
as
why
opposed
would you
to,
do that? You would do that because you're wanting to prove something, because in competition that's what you do, because there's a belief in overcoming things that you're wanting. In other words, it's just a whole bunch of human trending that isn't real and isn't true and doesn't have anything to do with you, that you've just focused on. Writers do that. In other words, that's one of the things about being in the business of writing, is that you want to be relatable. And if you're going to be relatable, you have to be believable. And if you're going to be believable, then you have to know what the world is like, and you have to describe it in ways that other people can understand it. And what you liked about us, you told us this when you first sat down here. What you liked about us is we talk different.
Yeah.
We're not like the rest of the world. We're not asking you to overcome things. We're just asking you to focus differently.
And I think my answer to your question, why would I do that, isn't that I seek to be relatable. The actual honest answer is because you weren't my mother. You know, it's worthiness. It's a sense of worthiness, and this feeling like I had to perform as a child in order to be loved.
Well,
I had to do things to be loved.
Everybody.
I don't think that makes me unique.
Most everybody is. We've been talking about that all the days that we've been together so far. Most everybody, these are the words we say. Most people are offering most of their vibration in response to what they are observing.
Right.
So, and most mothers don't know this.
Right.
Don't remember this. In their heart, they do. At their core, they do. But that's why we're teaching unconditional alignment, not conditional alignment.
Yeah.
Because in the slightest bit of conditional alignment, there's always going to be someone who can show you something that sounds believable enough that you're going to put an unnecessary bump on your path. It's all right.
Well, this feels like being in the presence of infinite wisdom, as you have described and as you present.
It feels like being in connection with your own inner being is what it feels like. It feels like Esther makes it easier for you because she is there right now, and she's got good words that display it, and the format is such that, and so it is an environment that is more conducive to having your undivided attention, so you feel like that. But you don't need this, and you don't need Esther. You have access to this, and often have experienced it, and you know that.
Yes.
And so, like what we were talking about earlier with in midst of some lovely conversation, don't ask it to always be that way. Don't hold yourself to some standard that is illogical. Let step one be an important and frequent part of your experience. That's what step 5 is. Step 5 is, I know how this works. I don't always do it. Esther's most often offered line to friends that she's romping around with is, I don't live it, I just teach it. But she wants to live it and does her best at living it, but she knows that she's not always trending in the direction of what she wants. Sometimes she's trending for the funny, sometimes she's trending for the harmony, sometimes she's trending just for the rebellious decision to tantrum for a minute.
Yeah. Yes. Oh.
In other words, your inner being is not holding you to any of these standards. If your inner being were holding you to that perfect standard, then if your inner being were not always loving you, if your inner being were sometimes as mad at you as you are at you, you'd never feel the anger because you'd be in harmony with your inner being and there'd be no separation.
Oh.
The very fact that you feel negative emotion is your evidence that your inner being never goes there.